Over a brand new product, MixBox. If you haven't heard of it, check it out. It's got 70 new effects and a completely different workflow. If you're familiar with all of our T-Rax, Amplitude, and Sample Tank stuff, it's going to blow you right out of the water. We have a mix up here that I'm going to be demonstrating with, and I'm going to go through a couple of different chains, show you guys how to use it. And you guys can demo it completely free for 10 days. At the end of the episode, we're going to be giving away a copy completely for free, just for asking a quick, simple question. So stay tuned to the very end, and you're going to enter your chance to win. For those of you guys who don't have an IK Multimedia account, create one now, and that's how you're going to actually get your chance to win MixBox today. So let's take a look here. And, just like always, before we jump into anything, I want to set up the DAW. So I want to go into Preferences, select my ACO drivers because I'm on Windows. On Mac, you don't need to worry about that, but you will want to use the drivers for your device. From here, we have our buffer size, which I'm going to crank all the way up today because we are in the mixing process. We're not necessarily in the tracking process where we'd have that low. Now, I don't necessarily have too much MIDI control going on, but you will see track is on for my MIDI input, and that is how I'm going to control anything on my tracks. If you don't have that there, it will not control your stuff. So let's go ahead and we'll take a look at the mix. I'm going to play it back for you, and then we'll go through all of the different chains. You can see here, this is a preview of the window, and when you open it, it's going to look like this. It's going to have only 4 modules available, and that's for a specific reason. That's to allow you to be able to expand and get bigger and smaller with the resizable GUI. Every module is resizable, and you can actually drag them around. They all have dry wet, and if you look on the back, they all have sidechain and solo available. If you do solo a module, you will hear only the effect that is going on from that module, which is super cool. It's a whole other level. So let's go ahead and we're going to take this to the sound, and let's listen to our audio example. Now, the track continues for a while there. It's a little bit of a lo-fi vibe. You kind of get the gist of it. If you haven't heard it, it's from our T-Rex Clipper video. It's the background music there, but you can see we have a couple of different things. We have drums, bass, guitar, rhythm guitar, lead guitar, and ambience. I like to sum everything up into buses, but let's go ahead and let's take a look at our rhythm guitar first. Let's hear what it sounds like without any effects, because I think this is kind of cool. So this is no MixBox on our guitar, and let's check out our chain. And now let's turn it on. Now you can see what it's going through is a tape echo into a vintage like Fender style amp out to a hall reverb, and then from there I'm essentially taking it as if it was going to go into the board. We're going into a nice little EQ for some subtractive EQing, some compression, some additive EQ, and then as if it was on an actual track, we have a tape cassette. Now that's not on right now, but I'll show you what that sounds like. So you can see right there, there's already such a big difference, and there's a lot of different presets. So if you guys aren't crazy about finding your sound, there are a couple in here to get you started. You can see some custom ones that I've already saved. But yeah, you could pick through all these different guys. This is the American Vintage Lo-Fi Delay, which I've just altered slightly for a couple of different reasons, really for the sound that I'm using today. Now, remember, you do have this option to make it nice and small. You do have your wet dry right here, and you have module presets, which is really cool. So every module has some module presets, so you can load a whole rack or just some modules. You have an in and an in value and an out value. So if you'd like, you can drive these a little bit differently. Every module has this gain control here, so a bunch of cool stuff. Anyway, let's jump ahead, and we're going to go to our lead guitar, which I think is pretty nifty as well. Let's play it dry. Now, you can hear there's a little bit of a crackle going, and that's not my buffer size or anything. That's our phonograph, right? Now, I've turned them all the way down to 1, and I've put my dry wet down to 6% to make sure I only have a little bit of distortion in the background from this guy and just a slight bit of crackle. I don't want to go too crazy. You could also see my hall reverb's all the way at 100%, but my dry wet's only at 25. So a couple of tricky things going on there. And see, my compression is just straight through, but you can do some, it's similar to parallel processing. But yeah, so that's cool sound. And with the other guitar. Great, so you get a little bit of an introduction on how you can make some guitar sounds here. Now, if you have Amplitube, you say, why would I use this? If you want something quick, simple, or you could just switch this out for Amplitube later. It's super simple to use. It's got the dry wet control, which you don't exactly have in Amplitube or T-Rex. But yeah, it's got a bunch of different stuff like this tape cassette you'll never find in Amplitube. Originally, this track, I did have Amplitube going into MixBox to add the second half of this chain. But I decided to just use these front 3 instead of a whole complicated Amplitube chain just because it's lo-fi, and technically I don't necessarily need all that clarity or that CPU pool right now because Amplitube does a lot of stuff. And this is just like a little simplified version, you know? It doesn't sacrifice any sound, and that's the cool part is I A-B'd them, and I got them so close. Of course, Amplitude's going to be a little bit more detailed, but it was perfect for what I was doing. So the next thing, let's check out our bass here. You notice it's very low. But I'm actually using Moto Bass and Moto Drum in my session. So for any of you guys who are looking at my meters moving, my CPU specifically, because I have Sample Tank 4, Moto Bass, and Moto Drum all on this track while I'm mixing. And I also have the 1 module on my master. So I'm running so many plugins right now. Realistically, sending this through the stream and everything, I should be having issues with some other plugins. But no, everything's running perfect. So let's check out our MixBox for our bass. Now let's play without the effects. Now, I cranked it down quite a bit because I did want to add some volume. Which traditionally you might not want to do, but I wanted to use the volume from these guys for a specific purpose because I wanted their color. Now you could see my chain here is SVT Classic into some subtractive EQ, compression, additive EQ, and then there's a second compressor here, but that's a little tricky because you don't necessarily always want to have 2 compressors like this, but this was just to make sure the dynamics after it comes out of everything is controlled. You can dial this a little bit dry and wet to get a little bit more punch if you wanted to, say, put your attack and release super heavy or super fast, and then just dial it a little dry, a little wet. That's a cool little feature. But yeah, so that's my whole chain. I replaced Amplitube with it, and I'm not using the Moto bass effects because of it, and I think it blends very nicely. So that's just super quick on guitar and on bass without doing too much. The next thing we have here is Sample Tank and our drums. And if you're asking yourself, why doesn't that sound like our Moto drum? That's because I have lo-fi and tape cassette. So even a super simple lo-fi setup will work. So let's hear it without any effects. So you can hear immediately I have a lo-fi sound with just this nice little lo-fi guy, which let's mess with the bandwidth so you can hear it. I turned the stereo down because I wanted it to not be too wide, but let's hear it. So I normally sweep to find the values that I'm using, and you can really hear what I'm doing there. So let's go through the tape cassette and we'll do a very similar thing. And you can hear that noise is a little bit overbearing, but what you can do, that little dry wet control really does a lot, and it gives you so much versatility to all these different plugins. So the next thing I want to do before we give away a copy of MixBox, and right now, guys, create an IK Multimedia account if you have not. In the next 5 minutes, we're going to be giving this guy away. This time, our winner will be given away in the thank you screen, so make sure you stay tuned to the very end. We will ask a simple question in a couple minutes here. Now, let's go here to our drum bus, and you can see everything's coming out from here, but realistically, our Sample Tank 4 is a hip-hop drum kit. Let's make sure this guy... Oh, so essentially this guy is going to be the kick drum, but we can do this a couple of different ways. Let's actually do this live so you guys can see how it's done. I'm going to go ahead and route my kick drum out from Moto Bass. So let's grab our acoustic kit right there, and let's go to 3-4, and we'll turn the monitor in so we can actually hear our signal. Now this is going to bypass our MixBox, so I'm going to have to copy that guy over. Well, let's go to our mixer. We'll send this guy out to 3-4, and this is all so we could sidechain the whole song to pump with this kick drum. Now you might want to do this to varying degrees depending on the song. We're just going to do it just very, very light today. All right, so there, we should have the exact same sound we just had, and now our kick routing. Perfect, so I didn't lose any sounds or anything like that. Now let's go here to our bass. You could see our sidechain was actually already active, and that's what this last guy was doing. He's got the sidechain on. Now, you select your sidechain in Ableton by clicking this little option open. You'll see it appear once sidechain is available on a plugin. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna go to Acoustic Kit. We're going to go to, let's go, oh, sorry, not Acoustic Kit. We're going to go to Kick because we've already routed it. Let's go pre-effect. We'll go post effects. Why not? You can really go post mixer. You can go any of these. It just depends on where you're pulling the signal in to use it for your sidechain. We'll just go post effects so we have all the different lo-fi stuff on it. So let's see how that hits. Now you can see my Black 76 is moving with my kick drum, but remember that's on our bass track. Let's solo them. Now you might ask, why would you do that? And that's really just so it'll give you some presence in the kick drum and not just that pumping sound. So if you're having trouble with your kick or your snare standing out in the mix, sidechain compression is a very useful tool. If you notice here, this is actually my guitar group bus. My sidechain is set to the kick drum. We're going to go post effects. Let's hear how it sounds. Forgive me, I got a little bit loud there, guys, but you can really hear the sound that I'm trying to go for when I exaggerate it, and that's the whole point. So that's how you set up sidechain compression in just a couple minutes, but it looks like we're giving away MixBox. So guys, go ahead and throw your answer in the chat box. What I want to hear is what your favorite module is from MixBox. Use the name from the MixBox page. If you're not familiar, it's in the description, we're going to pick a winner during the thank you scene, so make sure you stay to the very end. And if you have not yet, make sure to like and subscribe. We do giveaways every week, and we always have promotions going on. I try to keep you guys in tune, but I've also included a link down in the description just in case you guys want it. So thank you guys again for tuning in here, and make sure you guys answer your question. I'm going to leave the window open so you guys can answer this for quite some time. And let's go ahead and listen to this track one more time while I poke around And I did also want to mention one more thing about this guy. If you have T-Racks or you have Amplitube, this is an awesome little tool that's going to help you expand from not only your workflows from Amplitube and T-Racks, but you also have a couple of different modules like the new reverb and the new reverb algorithms, which are really awesome. Check those out. But you also have this really cool thing, the tape cassette, which is not available in any of our other stuff. We also have this really cool guy in modulation for guitar, in my personal opinion, the ensemble effect. That is awesome, beautiful. And if you've used Sample Tank 4, you've always wanted to reach for those effects on your actual audio signal. Now you can, and you don't have to really worry too much about relearning anything. But it is its own plugin, and it's super useful, and it's awesome that it is not only a plugin but standalone. So check this guy out. Try the demo. And if you're lucky enough to win today, watch back through this video and see all the little tips and tricks that I did to get the most use out of your plugin. But let's take a listen to this mix one more time and go ahead and throw your answers in the box. Thank you guys again for joining us. It's always a blast. Cheers.